So moved.
Okay, great. We have a motion by Commissioner Lee and support by Commissioner, Foster. Jeez, I'm not used to you being right next to me. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, excuse me. We have an agenda. And I have a dry throat. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Excuse me. Again, we have motion by Commissioner Lee and support by Commissioner Foster. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right. And I should note also that we have Patrick Sloan from the Township Planning Department here and our consultant, Courtney Agrusa. So for the minutes. Patrick, is there any further communications beyond what we saw in the packet, which we didn't actually see any communication?
Nothing additional to add.
Okay, excellent, thank you. All right, excuse me for a second. We have several items on the agenda this evening, none of which are public hearings. We have a public comment section. If anyone would like to make any comments, we will give you 3 minutes to make your comments. But please go to the microphone, speak into the microphone, and start with your name and address. Would anyone like to say anything about anything this evening? We don't have any public hearings. No? Okay, thanks for coming. Okay, item number 1 on our agenda is old business.
Madam Chair, I think there was someone in the audience
Oh,
who
I'm
might
sorry.
wanna
I didn't
speak.
see anyone.
Oh,
Are there copies of the agenda at the back?
yeah, there are copies, the back table. As you walk in at the corner of the back table in the corner, there are copies of the agenda.
So the items on our agenda this evening are, just to give you a quick overview, the Muslim Educational Community Center of America, which is also known as Mecca, rezoning. We have Country Plaza, and that is a dining space, exterior dining space. We have the Everton Reserve Project again, and that is going to be a site plan approval, preliminary site plan, correct, Patrick? That's preliminary?
Correct.
Yeah, oh, there's the word preliminary right in front of me. We have Elmhurst Street non-conforming contiguous lots, and we have Salts Road non-conforming contiguous lots. And so I'm going to move on to the old business, the item number 031. I'm sorry, does anyone have anything to say, given that? Nope, okay, moving right along. Old business is item 031-RZ-8298. That is the Muslim Educational Community Center of America, also known as Mecca. We are considering rezoning for parcel number 031-99-0007-000, which is also known as 6200 North Ridge Road, from RR, rural residential, to R1, single-family residential. This property is located on the east side of North Ridge between Ford Road and Hanford Road. The proposed rezoning is to allow for a future special land use application for a private school and child care facility. And just to note, we are considering the rezoning this evening. So, Patrick, please tell us all about it.
Sure, thank you. We last reviewed this application on September 9th of last year, and the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the rezoning application to the R1 zoning district. And after holding the public hearing and deliberating on the application, the Planning Commission adopted a motion to postpone action on the application pending additional information on the traffic impact study based on comments from Canton Township staff and Canton's traffic engineering consultant. The applicants have recently submitted a revised traffic impact study dated September 2024, although there is some data in there that's from December of 2024, which I'll get into in a few minutes. To go back to the application itself, the applicant proposes to rezone a parcel at 6200 North Ridge Road, located on the east side of North Ridge, from RR Rural Residential to R1 Single Family Residential. The subject site is 11.47 acres and includes a single-family residence on its west side. The east side of the site includes Fellows Creek and densely wooded areas. Fellows Creek runs west to east on the parcels to the north and then turning southward through the middle of this parcel. Additionally, a tributary to the south branch of Fellows Creek runs from the northeastern corner westward to converge with Fellows Creek on the parcel. The applicant has applied for special land use review to construct a religious institution on the site. And that special land use is currently under review for the mosque application. Religious land uses are special land uses in the current RR district and in the proposed R1 zoning district. So the current rezoning application doesn't really impact the pending special land use application for the mosque. The reason that the applicants are proposing the R1 zoning district is that in the future, they would like to apply for a school and daycare use at the facility. Schools and daycare uses are not permitted in the current RR zoning, but they are special land uses in the proposed R1 zoning district. So aside from the present rezoning application, there is a concurrent special land use application for a mosque, which is a religious institution, which is a special land use in the current RR zoning district. And that application is going through its normal course, and it will be before the Planning Commission for a public hearing within the coming months. It could be as early as next month. It could be after, whenever that application is deemed complete and all the information is sufficiently accounted for. If the rezoning is successful to R1 zoning, then the applicants would plan at some point in the future to apply for a special land use for a school and daycare use. But at this time, they have not applied for those uses. They've only applied for the religious institution, which is on a parallel track, a different track than the rezoning, just because the proposed special land use is a special land use in the current zoning district. So the proposed zoning application doesn't really impact the current special land use application that's under review. Once the special land use is sufficiently complete for Planning Commission review, there will be a public hearing, which includes mailing out public notices to properties within 300 feet and advertising the public hearing notice in the newspaper. When there's a rezoning application that's proposed, there's a requirement to include a plot plan or a conceptual site development plan. And the applicants have submitted that along with their special land use application. So what's shown on the screen here is their conceptual development plan that's on their special land use application. It's a little difficult to see the parcel lines because the parcel lines are in black and the vegetation kind of obscures a lot of the parcel lines. But the westernmost parcel goes to the abutting single-family residences to the east. So what's shown here, I'll show here is roughly the eastern lot line. So what's proposed on the special land use is the development itself is concentrated on the western half of the property where there's not as many trees. East of the proposed development area, that's in this heavily wooded area, that's where the Fellows Creek runs through. And then east of that, there's some woodlands, some open space, and then the single-family residential neighborhood to the east. So there's quite a bit of distance between the proposed development area and the residential neighborhood to the east. A lot of that is just the circumstance of the natural features and having the development here close to the road, which is Ridge Road. Since the application was last reviewed, the applicants have been pursuing the special land use review with Wayne County, and the applicants have been coordinating with Wayne County in terms of what some of the county standards would be regarding traffic management. And at the September meeting, there was some discussion about the access management to the site. So I'll talk a little bit about the proposed access on the north side. Although this is related more to the plan review itself, there were some concerns expressed at the public hearing about the traffic, and the applicant has made progress with Wayne County, so we wanted to provide that as an update, as kind of a backdrop of the upcoming special land use application and the development intent as a whole. On the north side of the site, there are drives that are proposed at Ridge Road, and there is a bypass lane on southbound Ridge that's shown in light gray, where there's proposed to be a bypass so that if anyone is coming southbound on Ridge and making a left turn into the site, that bypass lane would allow traffic to go past. This bypass lane that's on the west side of Ridge, it couldn't be built farther to the north. It couldn't be extended farther to the north because there's the Fellows Creek that runs under the bridge to the north, and there's some pretty steep topography there where there's a hill that's very difficult to cut into. So what the applicants have proposed in collaboration with Wayne County is that on southbound Ridge, this northern drive will not allow left turns in. On the outbound lanes, outbound traffic can turn right or it can turn left, and the inbound traffic can only be from the north. So if there's anybody that's coming from Ridge and going south down Ridge, if they want to take a left into the site, they will be using the southern access. The southern access allows the inbound both from the north and the south, and it has lanes for outbound north and south. So when traffic is coming from the north, coming southbound, and traffic, if it stacks up to turn left, that's where this bypass lane to the west comes in, where traffic can bypass along the area where they're stacking. In terms of the northbound traffic, the applicants have proposed to Wayne County to do a deceleration right turn lane. So south of the site itself, there's a long right turn deceleration lane. So as traffic is going northbound and turning right into the Mecca facility, the right turning traffic will get into the northbound right turn lane and then turn into the site. The lane also continues to the northern drive entrance. So if for some reason this drive on the south side was not accessible, or a driver chose to go into the north side, this right turn lane will extend northward between the two drives. The applicants have taken these designs to Wayne County for review. Wayne County has indicated preliminary approval of the road design. And because Ridge Road is under the county jurisdiction as a public road, it's important to get that feedback and input from Wayne County early in the process, given some of the issues with traffic and topography on that site. The other major item that we wanted to note was that there were some updated traffic information in the traffic impact study. The revised information has not yet been reviewed by Canton Township's traffic engineering consultant, Wade Trim, but we're working on getting the updated traffic study to Wade Trim for the review. There's just a few other traffic studies that we've received that we're processing to our traffic engineering consultant, so we're still working on that. The traffic impact study is more relevant to the special land use than it is to the zoning district, because whether it's the R1 district or the RR district, the traffic study is related more to the special land use of a religious institution because of the traffic impact. And so some of the updates that we've seen in the traffic impact study is that the traffic for the proposed mosque facility, the peak times have been moved to their proper areas, which is typically on Friday afternoons rather than during the typical AM, PM peak times for the morning and the evening commuters. So with those traffic counts being put at their appropriate times in terms of peak traffic being more on a Friday afternoon in addition to some other times during the week, it gives a more realistic distribution of where the traffic is going. The traffic study does indicate some existing deficiencies at Ford and Ridge, as well as some deficiencies that would continue if there is no mitigation for the intersection of Ford and Ridge. Ridge Road is under the jurisdiction of Wayne County. Ford Road is under the jurisdiction of MDOT, and so there would be a lot to work through regarding mitigation at that intersection. Today, the applicant's traffic engineer had sent me an email with some additional traffic data that clarifies some of the questions that we had, notably some of the discrepancies of the build 2029 conditions and the background 2029 conditions. The applicant had also included some proposed mitigation in the traffic study relating to signal timing changes. Because we had just gotten that today, our engineers haven't reviewed it and our traffic engineering consultant hasn't reviewed it. So we think those are more related to the special land use and not necessarily the rezoning itself. It's good information to have for the rezoning, and it helps us set expectations when we have those discussions for the proposed land use. But that's something that would still have to be reviewed by our traffic engineering consultant. And the proposal in the traffic study recommends signal timing changes to the light at Ford and Ridge Road. So there's more work to be done on that before we can make affirmative findings on that particular traffic study. But our recommendation is that that be something that's reviewed more in depth as part of the special land use, because the traffic study is very use specific. That's unique to the special land use in this case. So with that, staff's recommendation is approval. The traffic study is based on the proposed mosque use, which is subject to special land use review at an upcoming planning commission meeting. Therefore, we recommend deferring comments on the traffic study to that special land use review. However, if the planning commission would like additional information on the traffic study at this time, we've also prepared a model motion that would postpone action. So we've proposed two motions. Just like the last meeting, we had proposed a model motion to postpone action if the planning commission chooses. And we've also proposed a motion for approval of the proposed rezoning request. It includes additional findings of section 27.06D4 of the zoning ordinance, which are required in determining whether to rezone property. So that concludes our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Was the project sponsor here? Is the project sponsor here, please? Thank you. You can't hear me? Okay, sorry.
Hi.
Sir?
Good evening. Jesse Parkinson. I'm with Green Tech Engineering, 51147 West Pontiac Trail in Wixom. With me here tonight, we have the architect, the traffic engineer, the owners, and so I hope with that we can answer any questions you have. I know Patrick went into good detail there. As always, appreciate that. We've just to let you know, in the past 6 months, we've put a lot of effort into Wayne County. And with Wayne County submittals, we've included the traffic impact assessment. We've included some geometrics on the proposed widening. We've dealt with Pete over there and HICMAT, and back and forth a couple months, we finally came out with the results that they were looking for. So just to note that they've kind of said, okay, we're done with you. We'd like you to get your planning commission approval, your special land use, and then once you guys are ready for construction documents, we'll start looking at the construction of the road and the drainage and even the on-site stormwater management. So with that, any questions? We have everybody here. We have the whole team. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with Brian. Do you have anything?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So, Patrick, thanks so much for the description of how the traffic is supposed to flow. So, I wish I had a traffic engineering degree. I don't, but I kind of think that setup is a tad bit funky, just to be honest with you. So you're going to have to come south. If I want to turn left, then I have to go a little bit farther south and swing in left. Yeah, how many times am I going to go ahead and swing that left anyway, right? The decel lane, the pass lane, is that what we call it, a pass-through lane? Is that what we call it? I think.
Yeah, passing.
Pass-through lane. So we can't start it at the I'll call it the right spot, because Fells Creek is there, right? Tell us about, there was no opportunity at all to get, like, the Eagle wouldn't allow for some sort of, waiver for you guys to start a little bit earlier? Because what I see there is, I got to tell you, from developments past, it seems convoluted. and it seems a little bit messy. And I'd love to see that start a little bit earlier, a little bit farther north, if at all possible, if they were gonna have people, you know, only turning in left from the south of the site, I'll call it that. So, and I don't know if the traffic engineer can speak to that. I think you said he's here, right? Yeah,
he's here.
yeah.
So all I can say to that, from our standpoint, is that we've submitted the plans to the county. They gave us their recommendations as to the geometrics. The northerly entrance, they did not want left turns into that, so they made us put a little funky island in there to make it totally impassable. They wanted the bypass lane. They did not want the left-hand turn lane, so we did that for them, and we went back and forth, and this is what they came up with for us to do.
Got it. And just last piece is, Patrick, there's more, Wade hasn't had an opportunity to look at the finality of this, correct?
Correct.
All right, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioner Singh?
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair, at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lee?
No questions at this point.
Commissioner Foster?
I have no questions either, thank you.
Okay, and our own traffic engineer, Commissioner Cruz?
I'm in agreement. This looks convoluted, and even if Wayne County suggested this, this is a nightmare already. I could see it. Has anyone been to South Canton Scholar Schools on Canton Center Road? They had this same setup, and they had to redo the entire traffic pattern. It was a mess, and the reason why, I could see it already, because you have two entrances, they needed to queue people off the road because there was so many people trying to turn in. The way this was set up for them, people were still trying to make that right into the southern entrance. They didn't care about that north entrance. They're trying to get in right away. So it's stacking on the road of Canton Center. So I think the same thing is gonna happen here. And I think I brought this up at the last Planning Commission meeting when this was brought before us.
Please
I
make
wish
sure you're
somebody-
talking into the mic, just.
Okay.
Because they can't
Yeah.
hear us on the tape, the recording.
It was a case study of what not to do, and it looks like Wayne County has not even looked at that remedy, and you're making the same mistake that'll cause the same issue. This is an intense use, so this pattern, I don't agree with, even if Wayne County says this is the best thing. I'm saying it's not ideal from Canton's standpoint. Why, is the traffic engineer here? Why didn't Wayne County want the left turn lane versus the bypass?
Could you please come
Come
to the mic?
mic.
No, please come
Before you
to the,
start talking, come
please
to the
don't
mic.
speak outside the mic. We can't hear you.
We proposed to them, like a central left hand
Please,
lane.
sir, I'm sorry, please state your name and address for the
Oh,
record.
My name is Mohammed Lutfi. I work with Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick. I am a professional traffic engineer and a PE. And this traffic study, it was under my supervision.
Well, you're studying it. You're studying what
Yes,
they
I
give
did.
you. You didn't come up with this.
No, I studied it.
Okay.
Yes. And we came up with the center left hand lane, but Wayne
That's a
County-
better design.
It is a better design.
You know why
and
it's a better design? Because traffic doesn't have to veer around,
Believe me, we
Yeah.
approach it the first,
and you have a refuge.
yes.
That left turn lane's a
We
refuge.
try it, and the reason, we're sending everybody, to the south, because there is not much
Sir,
traffic.
can you please speak into the mic? It's hard to,
Okay,
for the
there is not
recording.
much traffic, going left or, coming from the north to the mosque.
Yeah.
So, due to the taper length, and the speed limit, like on North Ridge, it's 55 mile per hour. And so.
It's
so-
unposted, right?
Yeah, it's unposted.
So it's
Prima facie,
55,
this is what I call. I was a traffic engineer, for Oakland County Road Commission
Yeah.
before I start this job. And I think, I mean, passing lane, it's okay, you know, but we cannot achieve, you know, the table length, you know, so maybe,
But you could still achieve a left turn lane with those same geometrics.
we did, but Wayne County, they don't prefer that, you know, that.
Did they give you a reason why?
Yes, because, you know, they don't have any plan, like, to have the road, you know, like, to have a center left turn lane through the stretch of the road, you know, so they don't like to see, you know, left, you know, lane, and then you go 2 lane, and then you come up another development, you know, come up with a left turn. I told them, I said, you know, eventually
That's not a
it
good
has to be,
answer,
you know,
yeah.
yeah.
That to me does not make sense. I get that
To
they
me-
said that to you,
Yeah, we told
and you
them.
as an engineer, that doesn't make sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
the first,
Back in December, we submitted that very plan.
with
and-
center left turn lane.
With a center
Yeah.
left turn lane. It was rejected, and they asked us to do the bypass
That's
lane
unbelievable.
in lieu of
Yeah.
that. And so here we are. I mean, we've got the letter, an email. A letter says the geometrics are approved.
And you've got residents on the west side, correct? There's
Yeah.
existing residents on that west side.
Couple single families, and that's
Okay,
it. There's,
that's also a benefit to them, that they don't have to sit in a lane and people are trying to veer around them when they're going in. So it serves a dual purpose. I mean, I feel strongly about it. And I get that you're bound by what they say. It's just not a good design compared to that design.
But, you know, like, we have to remember, you know, like, this event, it happened, you know, like, the peak hour, you know, for this development is like 1 PM, between 12
I get it.
and.
So you're saying 1 to 3 is your peak,
Yeah,
correct?
the 3 to 6.
Peak doesn't matter to me.
That's why
Safety
I-
matters to
Yeah,
me.
it's,
You know, a better design is a safer design, you know, I get it. It's not during
I mean,
rush
it's
hour.
always, you know, prefer like center left turn lane. I agree with you,
Yeah.
100%, you know,
So it's Pete Malinkovich from Wayne County.
yes.
I'm gonna give him a call. Can I do that?
yeah.
Can I do it now?
Do you have his cell number?
I do. Yeah, he's one of my friends.
Go right ahead.
I'm meeting with him tomorrow, you know.
Well, let's
in
conference
different
call him,
projects, You know, he's my,
because I'm not against the development. I'm against bad design for traffic for Canton
and the city, I think the city or the
Township.
they came up, I think they.
We can't hear you,
recommended-
sir. I'm
They
sorry.
recommended, you know, center left turn lane, you know, in the
Yeah.
beginning. But Wayne County, they want, you know, passing lane instead.
And Wade Trim has not reviewed the TIS yet.
The revised one, they haven't. That'll be under review soon for them to review. I don't know if they'll review so much the road design because it's under the jurisdiction of Wayne County, but they can review the traffic study, the data, the modeling, the background conditions, any proposed mitigation.
And I get that you're saying that it's a special land use issue. To me, it's not. You're rezoning this for that special land use, so to me, it goes hand in hand. So these issues have to be worked out, not deferred to special land use. That's my opinion.
I have a copy of the report if you want.
I have it too. I was reading it.
I mean,
It's not good reading.
the updated one or?
I had just got that this afternoon, so the
Yeah.
updated one is
I
not in
got-
the packet.
You know, like
Yeah.
you-
So this is where I want to separate out between the special land use and the traffic study and the rezoning itself. Because if the rezoning doesn't move forward, we could find ourselves here within a month or two, and we have a special land use under the RR district, which essentially is the same as the R1 district when it comes to the special land use of a religious institution. So we're still going to have the traffic study in the future with the special land use, but if the rezoning doesn't move forward, the rezoning would still be pending. The rezoning application, it makes no difference in terms of the special land use for a religious institution. It does make a difference if there's a future special land use application for a school and a daycare, but those applications haven't yet been made.
Thank you.
The last thing, are there any proposed improvements for Ford and Ridge? Because you mentioned some mitigation and some discrepancies for 2029, right?
Yeah, the traffic study had some discrepancies in the data that the applicant had emailed about this afternoon that I think they were attempting to reconcile those. I haven't looked at them in any great detail, and if I did, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I wouldn't be able to determine, if it was correct. That would be something we would defer to Wade Trim. But they did include in the mitigation portion of the traffic study of signal timing adjustments at the intersection of Ford and Ridge, which we've seen before at other intersections where it's at the discretion of the road agency, in this case, more likely NDOT because it's Ford Road, of whether they would approve the signal timing adjustments.
Did your study look at the delays, for that intersection?
If you look to the report, the table, the compare between, the background and build condition, and we have
Again, we
mitigation.
can't hear
Yeah,
you
if you
very
could
well,
speak right
sir.
into the mic. There you go.
Yeah, that mic is terrible, sorry.
So I would feel more comfortable if Wade Trim had a look at that before we made any decision. And I get you're saying it's special land use. This is the use that's being put in front of us, regardless of the rezone special land use. This is the use, and it has to work properly with traffic, in my mind. But wait, hold on. Wade Trim has not looked at this, correct?
At this traffic study, they haven't looked at the revised study that's been presented. And similar to what we had looked at a month ago when we had a series of rezonings on last month's agenda, where we had a large single-family residential development on the north side of Getty's, and we had a proposed gas station at the southwest corner of Ford and Lots Road. We had a discussion about those proposed intended uses, and they did have traffic studies, but Wade Trim hadn't yet reviewed those traffic studies, and there were major concerns with implications of traffic there. But at the end of those reviews, it was about the rezoning district that we were there to talk about, not necessarily the development proposal. So I'll say tonight what I said last month of, regardless of how we may feel about a development proposal or whether there's any site changes, any decision on the rezoning application is not an endorsement or any kind of tacit approval of a future special land use. So even if the rezoning is recommended for approval, that's no indication on how the Planning Commission will vote on a future special land use application.
Okay,
That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz. Commissioner Janowski?
Patrick, I have a quick question. How many parking spots are required, and then how many parking spots do we have on here? I have a general concern with the overall condition of the overflow of the water that we have, stormwater, all over our township. So to me, it looks, I'm jumping ahead again, just like Commissioner Cruz. This is just rezoning, but I think it's a good thing to bring it forward to everybody, that the concerns that exist.
Right now, I don't have the required parking in front of me in terms of the requirements. I think the ratio is 1/3 based on the capacity of the building. And I can bring up,
We have 226 parking spaces required with 356 parking spaces proposed. And the idea behind that is there are some rather large sessions on Friday afternoons where we do not want to be stacking, we do not want to be parking in the streets, parking in other driveways adjacent to the property. Everything needs to be handled on the property. Circulation needs to get handled on the property. And for that reason, the owners wish to have extra parking spaces. There are events sometimes in the evenings with the gym that they use, and so we just want to make sure we're
Has
handling
anybody
it.
did a occupancy study for all these events?
The
in
architect
the
can
building
speak to
and stuff
that. I
like
think
that?
they've done that
It's-
per
I'm
code.
just bringing it forward because
Sure.
it's a concern I have. I
Sure, and then
we
it-
don't have
with-
extra parking.
With
you know,
regards
we
to the
don't need it.
stormwater, your concern there, obviously, we have stormwater requirements. We're doing underground detention. It's getting held in the underground detention, and it outflows into the creek over time. So any pre-construction runoff will meet or be less than any post-construction runoff, so.
This is Mel Biba from GAV Associates, 24001 Orchard Lake. So the prayer hall, it can accommodate 500 people. The other areas that serves the prayer hall, which is like classrooms and the gym, I will be part of it. So we should have 500 people in the prayer hall.
That's at one time in the use of the building, or will there be additional people elsewhere?
This is one time.
Yes, but at that same time, so multi-use, so you have one space is used, are there other people?
Yeah, you're just gonna occupy one space at a time. So would be in a prayer hall, same people in prayer hall will be using the gym or the classrooms. So it won't be like extra people.
Okay.
Yep.
That was my first concern, and then we're running into this problem all over the city with parking, or with traffic, and it's becoming a big issue, and you can see what the traffic study is, so someone needs to, I think that you may run into some opportunities with the timing, but otherwise, we're running into problems everywhere, and everyone's complaining, the community's not happy, so, but your timing aligns, and if you look at the traffic study, and I don't know, as Commissioner Cruz said, we just can't keep on doing stuff that way, and we have to look at safety, so those are my concerns. I love the beautiful development, looks like it's awesome, so, thank you.
Yeah, I share some concerns about the traffic patterns and the timing of traffic, and just, concerns about the study, the traffic study. So I look forward to hearing what Commissioner Cruz finds out from the county. But at this point, we need to make a decision as to whether we're going to approve the rezoning request or postpone it. So anybody have any strong feelings other than the
Madam
people
Chair,
who've
point of
already
order.
spec-
If I could through you to Planning Commission staff, so just so we're clear, we do have the option tonight to either approve at the zoning level, or we can postpone based upon, at least at this juncture, additional information from the Wade Trim study. Those are our two options on tonight, correct?
Wade Trim reviewing the study.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for the correction. Wade Trim review of the traffic impact study.
Right, we can wait on, for the Wade Trim review for the three rezonings that we had last month. All three had traffic studies, and we didn't have a Wade Trim review with any of those. But we also didn't have a land use proposal. Well, we had a land use concept that was included in those rezonings, but not a land use application. So in those cases, we knew that traffic would be an issue. We knew that Wade Trim would review it, but that would be part of a future land use application, whether it's a PUD or a PDD or a special land use in some cases. So at last month's rezonings, we knew that there were traffic issues that would be outstanding and addressed during the time of development application review, and those had gone forward as well without that Wade Trim review. So here, having the Wade Trim review is an option, but it's not something that we required of the three that were looked at last month.
Got it. So with that being said, Madam Chair, what I'd like to do is place a motion on the floor that we take up option number 2 for tonight's purposes. Thank you.
May I say something?
Sure.
I just want to say that I would be highly uncomfortable if we treated this development different than we did last week. And so I would be in favor of moving it forward and then continuing to work with the applicant, Wayne County, and the traffic engineers on the traffic study.
I agree with you, Commissioner Foster.
Concur.
I think so too. It's.
Okay, let's get to the
We want
motion.
to be consistent.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there's no public hearing this evening, sir. I'm sorry, sir. We offered you the opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting, and you declined, so. Okay, does anyone else on the commission have anything to add? Or want to make a motion?
I'm going to make the motion.
Sit down, please, sir. We don't have a public hearing tonight.
So,
Sir.
so the planning commission is doing its deliberations, and we're at the point of doing
Process.
deliberations. There was public comment at the beginning of the agenda. There's not a public hearing for this, so.
I gave you
we-
2 opportunities to speak at the beginning, so please sit down. And I told you what it was, sir. We have a process. This is a process that we go through.
So we have a motion that's been put on the floor. Was that motion supported?
We did not actually make a motion. You just suggested that we move ahead with option 1. Did you want to make that motion, or option 2?
No, I won't move forward with that motion. I don't know if we need to take that motion up before we go to the secondary motion. I think our legal counsel will be able to help us out.
You can simply just withdraw your motion.
Got it, thank you. So I'll withdraw my motion and we'll move forward with the motion that was accepted by the rest of the body.
Okay.
Then we can
Anyone
move forward
want
with
to
the
make that
vote.
officially? please?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I move ahead with, or support option 1 approval. I move to recommend the request in planning application 031R78298 to rezone parcel number 031-99-0007-000 from RR, rural residential, to R1, single-family residential, as the proposal meets the standards of section 27.06 D4 of the zoning ordinance as stated in the staff report based upon the following findings. 1, the proposed R1 zoning district is in accordance with the basic intent and the purpose of the zoning ordinances and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, conditions have changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted, and the proposed rezoning R1 will not grant special privileges. 3, the amendment will not result in unlawful exclusionary zoning and will not set an inappropriate precedent. And number 4, the proposed R1 zoning district is consistent with the existing land uses surrounding the property and is consistent with the trends in land development in the general vicinity of the property. 5, compliance with the standard of the R1 zoning district is attainable. And 6, the proposed R1 zoning district by itself, excuse me, and, sorry,
I think it means it should be does not result.
does not result in negative impacts on the township infrastructure, with the final determination to be made during the development application review.
There you go.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Janowski and support by Commissioner Foster. Any further discussion?
So I just want to add, the one you just read, number 6, we're making this assumption already that it does not result in negative impacts on the township infrastructure. We don't know that.
It's the zoning district does not have an impact on
I get it.
the
Yeah,
township, not this development.
I get it.
The R1, proposed R1 zoning district.
Then why even submit the site plan for this? Honestly. I mean, the point is it all ties together, but I get what you're saying about the process, so.
All right, any further discussion? Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz,
No.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Janowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
No.
Commissioner Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. We wish you the best. We will see you again.
So the next steps in this application is the rezoning application will go to the Township Board of Trustees for 2 readings. The first meeting will probably be sometime later this month.
Thank you, Patrick.
Agenda.
All right, we are still having a meeting, sir. Please leave the board alone. We are still meeting. Okay, item number 2 on our agenda is, I'm sorry, I'm going to steal this back from you real quick, is Country Plaza, item number 033-DIR-8439. Country Plaza, we're considering a site plan for parcel number 033-99-0009-004, which is 655, 6565, 6567, 6571 North Canton Center Road. The property is located on the west side of North Canton Center Road between Hanford Road and Warren Road. We are going to discuss proposed outdoor dining space and updates to landscaping, curbing, and cross connections. Patrick, please tell us more.
Thank you. Had a screen freeze up here, so this will just take a moment to get through. There's a proposed site plan amendment for Country Plaza, and this is one that we've looked at a few months ago before. It's on the west side of North Canton Center Road, just north of Hanford. And it was recently approved by Canton to make changes to the building facade, which included replacing metal panels on the upper portions of the building, adding faux wood paneling in the northeastern part of the building, installing recessed LED lighting, and lime washing the brick. There are site changes taking place, and the project's starting to come together. And at this point, the applicant proposes to make additional improvements that include adding an outdoor dining area, updating the landscaping, replacing the sign in the front of the property, building a cross-connecting drive to the south, removing barriers to the existing cross-connecting drive to the north, and revising the parking. Although most of those site improvements can be reviewed and approved administratively, Planning Commission review is required for the proposed reduction in parking below the minimum required and for the building materials of the outdoor dining structure. Regarding the parking, based on the square footage of the existing shopping center and the proposed outdoor dining area, there are 41 parking spaces that are required. And the site currently has 40 spaces, and with the outdoor dining area and some of the reconfiguration of the site, there's a net reduction down to 36 on-site parking spaces. So 41 required, 36 on the site. The property owner of Country Plaza also owns the shopping center to the south, where Beaumont is, and there are shared parking spaces identified on the property to the south. So there's convenient parking if there is overflow. It's unlikely at the ratios that our ordinance requires, where we have a shopping center that has a full parking lot. It's pretty rare, unless you're opening a new fast food chicken drive-through restaurant, then it can get pretty busy. But well, too soon maybe. But no. But most of the time, with different uses, like there's a laundromat and there's a coffee shop and there's a pizza place, they're never going all at their peak uses at the same time. They have different peak times. So for a multi-use shopping center, the traffic peak kind of evens out. So we recommend that a modification be granted for the traffic and the parking spaces to allow for the 36 on-site parking spaces, as well as the proposed shared spaces to the south. Also, the zoning ordinance allows for the Planning Commission to require additional parking spaces to be built in the future if the parking demand is warranted. And this site, once I get it back up on the screen, will show that on the western, roughly half of the site is undeveloped. There is area to build additional parking if it's warranted. Also, the architecture of the outdoor dining area, it'll be a metal framed structure, and it'll be open much of the year when the season allows for it. And there's an enclosure and heaters inside that would allow for some of the outdoor dining during the winter months as well. And it meets the setback requirements. The only request here is that technically it doesn't have the 50% brick because it's a framed structure that's got fencing and temporary enclosure around it. So it has an aluminum frame, glass, a zip screen within the frame, and a polycarbonate roof. So the principal building is at least 50% brick. The proposed outdoor dining structure obviously isn't and would require a modification from section 26.06 footnote H of the zoning ordinance, which we recommend approval of based on the specific architectural objective of that structure. So with that, staff's recommendation is approval, including approval of 36 on-site parking spaces pursuant to section 4.01C6 of the zoning ordinance, and approval of the architectural materials of the outdoor dining area pursuant to section 26.06 of the zoning ordinance, subject to compliance with the outdoor dining standards of section 6.02 AA of the zoning ordinance and compliance with the sign requirements of Article 6A of the zoning ordinance. That concludes our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Is the project sponsor here? Yeah, I thought that was you. Come on up to the mic and tell us a little more if you'd like.
Good evening, Michael Mackey, 6567 North Canton Center. I'm represent the owner of Country Plaza, which you all are hearing about. Also, we own the property to the South Canton Center where Papaya is. Honestly, we're just trying to update the space. You've seen probably driving by, the building is complete. We've gone through the proper channels to get that done. Phase 2 was always this landscape, improve drivability, create some type of community gathering spot, and really what we're trying to do is improve the drivability and the access from the south to the north. As you know, on Ford Road, you can drive through shopping centers. We're trying to kind of create that same effect on Canton Center. You'd really be able, once this is approved, you'd be able to drive, if you're living in Sunflower, you'd be able to drive through Hanford, through the Papaya Center, to this site, to the next site, actually all the way to the daycare without having to go on Canton Center. So we're trying to create access through the dining. We're putting in Cargo Coffee. They're doing their build out now. It's going to be something really nice, and the outdoor seating area is not what you may think of, maybe a restaurant outdoor seating. I don't think it's going to get that busy, that heavy flow of traffic. It's just going to be maybe a few patrons in the morning or in the evening drinking, sipping their coffee. The barrier itself is raised and it's consistent across, so we're trying to make it as safe as possible.
Which barrier do you mean?
Of the outdoor of the covered patio itself.
Okay.
Right. So.
Okay. And those, I was trying to figure out the drawings, because there was some stuff on there that wasn't labeled. Patrick, could you put up the elevations and the plan of that? It's page 84, there you go. So those are little heaters hanging from the top of those walls, correct?
Yes.
I assume those are elevations, because they're not labeled. And that's the roof plan on the upper right and the floor plan on the upper left?
Yeah, the building documents. Now, we're trying to get the site plan approved. Building this out is probably right down in the future. And
Okay.
we'll get building plans and construction documents
Gotcha.
together
Okay.
separately for
Okay.
a building permit to put this all together. But as part of the entire site plan, I wanted to get this kind of out of the way now.
Gotcha, okay. So the zip screen is like a window shade type screen.
Exactly,
that's
and there's
there,
actually
okay.
2 options on the table for what they're calling a pergola, what the tenant is calling a pergola. They may do a zip screen, they may do a full enclosure, but that will be in a
Okay,
different submission.
just wanted to make sure, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
we want to make it something really nice.
Well, it's already looking really nice when I
Thank
drive by, so I appreciate what you've done, so. Anybody on the commission have any comments or feedback, thoughts? Open it
This
up.
is an example of what we should always encourage is the connections with drives. So it takes traffic off of your main roads. Excellent, great job.
Yeah, absolutely, here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve the site plan amendment and planning application 033 DIR 84393 at 6555-6575 North Canton Center Road on the subject parcel 033-99-009-004, including approval of the 36 on-site parking spaces pursuant to section 4.01C6 of the zoning ordinance and approval of the architectural materials of the outdoor dining area pursuant of section 26.06 of the zoning ordinance, subject to compliance with the outdoor dining standards of Section 6.02AA of the zoning ordinance in compliance with the sign requirement of Article 6A of the zoning ordinance.
Support.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Janowski and support by Commissioner Singh. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Lee, could you call the vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Janowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. We're looking forward to it opening. Any date?
Everything's open except for the coffee shop.
Yeah.
The containers are now there, their building materials are there. It'll take a few months to get it done.
Sure.
But you'll probably see me again. Patrick, thank you again for all of your help through the process, and we're continuously trying to do more things over there. So you'll see
Appreciate
me again soon, probably.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. Back for a second. So we have item 3 is Everton Reserve. We're considering the preliminary site plan for several parcels, property at 48030 Cherry Hill Road. I have read before, believe it or not. Property is located on the north side of Cherry Hill Road between Beck and Denton Road. The proposed use is a 62 detached single-family residences. Patrick, tell us all about it, please.
Sure, thank you. The applicant proposes to develop a 62-unit, single-family residential development on a 34.68-acre site of 3 acres located on the north side of Cherry Hill Road and on the west side of Beck Road. The units are proposed to be detached condominiums, so the areas outside of the structures will be common elements and not individual lots. With this application, in 2024, one of the site's parcels was rezoned from RR Rural Residential to R2 Single Family Residential. And at the time of the rezoning application, the applicant included a proposed layout that is similar to the preliminary site plan proposed in this application this evening. I think during rezoning, they may have had a few more units on the site. And with the proposed application, I think it's fewer units than what were illustrated on the rezoning application. But the layout is very similar to what was on the rezoning application back in 2024. And I'll bring an overlay of the plan here on the screen. Well, the lines look a little faint, but in the light yellow is the line work. So it shows the roads and the units on the site. So looking at the site itself, it's right behind Dodson Elementary School at the northwest corner of Beck and Cherry Hill. And there are 2 access points to the site. One of them is from Beck Road. One of them is from Cherry Hill Road. The 2 points of access are required for public safety access, and it also allows for a little bit better traffic efficiency when there's 2 points of access. People that live in the community will have some options in terms of when they leave in the morning or get home at night or vice versa, in terms of the best route to take and looking at alternate points of access. So having one access on each road is helpful. On the layout, there's also a stub road on the west side of the lot. If the property to the west is ever developed, there would be a requirement to connect to the stub road in order to have more access points throughout a larger development. If we go even farther west of the site off of the picture, farther west is Canford Park. And Canford Park has a stub road on its east end. So if the property in between it is ever developed, it'll have 2 points of access, east and west. But if it's continued to be farmed, that would be great also. But with the stub roads, we're just planning for a potential future if there is future development. So that's the reason for the stub road on the west side. The allowable density in the single family, in the R2 zoning district is generally 2 units per acre, or it's 1 unit per 20,000 square feet, which is a little less than a half an acre. So the top density in the R2 district is 2.178 units per acre. The applicant is proposing a density of 1.79 units per acre, so less than what the zoning ordinance allows. Some of that is just based on minimum separation distances for units and some of the site development features. There's a drain that runs throughout the site, west to east, so that restricts some of the development area. Closer to the east entrance of the site, the area is heavily wooded near Beck Road, but there's also some wetlands there. And near Cherry Hill Road, there's also some wetland areas there as well. So there are some areas on the site that are either undevelopable or much more difficult to develop, so that naturally lowers the density on the site. The site has several wetland areas, and the applicant will apply for a wetland permit from Eagle. And if approved by Eagle, some of the proposed road areas and grading will encroach into the 25-foot setback required by section 2.24A of the zoning ordinance. Therefore, variance approval would be required for the proposed encroachments into the 25-foot wetland setback areas that are illustrated on the proposed plans. And this has come up before for residential developments that are not part of PDDs. Sometimes in a planned development district or a PDD, a wetland setback modification will be included in the list of modifications that an applicant asks for. But occasionally, when there's a non-PDD development and there are structures or grading within 25 feet of a wetland, there's also an application that goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals that reviews those wetland setbacks. With the proposed layout, the layout complies with the setback standards of the zoning ordinance. There is a additional setback for the distance between the garage and the front of or back of sidewalk on the internal street. There's a minimum spacing of 22 feet, which allows for parking in a driveway without overhanging the sidewalk. The applicant has submitted a traffic study with the two entrances proposed. The traffic study has been prepared by Fleece and Vandenbrink, and it concludes that the proposed development is expected to have a minimal impact on the adjacent roadway network, and that the existing infrastructure can adequately accommodate the projected trips generated by the proposed development plan. Therefore, the traffic study does not recommend any additional mitigation measures. The traffic study was also reviewed by Wade Trim, Canton Township's engineering consultant, and Wade Trim agreed with the methodology and the results of the Fleece and Vandenbrink traffic study for those two studied intersections. To alleviate the level of service condition for the driveway on Beck Road, Wade Trim recommends the addition of a short 50-foot right turn lane for the site drive. The preliminary site plan includes acceleration and deceleration tapers at each entrance, but any improvements along Cherry Hill Road or Beck Road are subject to Wayne County review. All of the units will have front entry garages, and they will all be accessed from those internal roads. So none of the units will have direct access from Beck Road or Cherry Hill Road. The site will include sidewalks along all the internal streets on both sides, except in the following areas. One along the north side of Charlevoix Drive between Beck Road and Everton Drive. There will be a sidewalk on the south side of Charlevoix Drive in this area. And a second along the north side of Chippewa Court between the west side of Unit 7 and the cul-de-sac on the west end. There are sidewalks proposed along the site's frontages of Cherry Hill Road and Beck Road, about 310 feet along Cherry Hill and about 263 feet along Beck Road, where sidewalk will be constructed. On the north side of Charlevoix Drive, there's a 10-foot wide easement area proposed for a future pathway to the ITC corridor if the ITC trail is extended into this area. And that's shown here on the north side of the site. So hopefully in the future, if there's a east to west trail in this area, there's a great spot here to connect. There could be some other spots as well, but we do appreciate having that conceptual easement on the plan. For the natural features, the site includes 4.22 acres of regulated wetlands and 0.74 acres of which is proposed to be filled. That will be under the jurisdiction of Eagle. The site also includes the Mott Drain, which runs west to east. The grading and vegetation along Mott Drain will be preserved, except for 2 proposed road crossings. Most of the trees on the site will be preserved, but there are 82 regulated trees and 3 landmark trees that will be removed. There are 238 regulated trees on the site, and Article 5A of the zoning ordinance allows 25% of regulated trees to be removed without mitigation. The landscape plan proposes the mitigation of trees required by the zoning ordinance, which is 23 trees to mitigate the regulated trees and 9 trees to mitigate the landmark trees. The landscape plan submitted meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance and the condominium ordinance for the landscaping along Cherry Hill and Beck Roads, the street trees along internal roads, and the landscaping for the detention pond, except that the frontage landscaping along Cherry Hill Road and Beck Road excludes the wetland areas along those frontages because those wetlands will be preserved. So those wetlands really can't be planted with frontage landscaping. The ordinance requires berms and landscaping along frontages, which look great when they're graded for a development, except where there's natural features like wetlands where we want to preserve those areas and not grade a berm or do anything else there. So with the preservation of that vegetation and the trees in it, it'll look a lot better than it would be if it's graded in landscapes. For the architecture, the zoning ordinance requires 50% brick and a 4-foot horizontal offset in the rear. And the home models proposed include the minimum brick and the required horizontal offsets. The final elevations and floor plans will be determined at the time of final site plan review. There's an entry monument sign on the west side of the entrance at Cherry Hill Road that meets the ordinance. There's lighting fixtures at the entrance at Cherry Hill Road, and the same lighting fixtures will have to be added at Beck Road, which the applicant has agreed to add. So there'll be 1 light fixture on each side of each entrance at each road. The master deed and bylaws are included, and they're acceptable to the staff and legal counsel. However, prior to final site plan review, we'll look at them again just to make sure for one final review before that goes forward at final site plan review. And finally, with utilities, there's existing water main along Cherry Hill Road and Beck Road. There are connections to both, which will allow looping. There's an existing sanitary sewer main along Cherry Hill Road and Beck Road. A connection is proposed to the main along Cherry Hill Road. The final utilities will be decided upon during final site plan review. The stormwater management is under the jurisdiction of Wayne County and is subject to county review and approval. There are 2 stormwater ponds proposed on the east side of the development that are near Mott Drain, and those stormwater ponds are proposed to outlet to Mott Drain. That concludes our staff report. Our recommendation is approval, subject to adding 2 light fixtures at the Beck Road entrance pursuant to section 2.13 of the zoning ordinance, and final satisfactory legal review of the master deed and bylaws. So that concludes our review, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Project sponsor, you've been here before, you know the process.
Good evening.
Tell us more.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mike Knowles. I'm with the Umlor Group, 49287 West Road in Wixom. I have thank you, Mr. Sloan. You did a fantastic job of teeing that up for me. Have a couple more slides. I always believe a picture speaks 1,000 words. So I just wanted to give you an overview of the area on this particular slide. The site is 35 acres. Next slide, please. So the density usually is the big question. You have seen me here before recently for this particular project because we took care of the rezoning of the 11 acres on the west side of this particular assembly of 3 properties. So we were here in front of the Planning Commission and twice to Township Board. So this is our 4th public meeting on this particular project. So you can see that as Mr. Sloan pointed out, the allowable unit count, his was a little bit higher than my calculation. But the straight 2 per acre calculation is for 70. He's correct, we are down to 62 units. In terms of an allowable density, 2 units per acre, and we are below that particular density. And you can see I have both annotated the overall aerial, so you can see which developments are R2 and which ones are R3. and also the master plan. So you can see all the 2s and 3s around it. We're on the lower end, so we're a 2, and we're below that. In the lower right-hand corner, you can also see one of the proposed houses, which you have details of those in your package, and of course, you'll see more of that for final site plan. But I wanted to give you a picture. Again, I like to see photos of the actual homes that were built by Pulte Homes in this market, because a lot of times they come out a little bit nicer than some of the renderings and some of the architectural plans. I also have Kirk Thomas here with Pulte Homes of Michigan as well, if we have any product questions to talk about. Next slide, please, Mr. Sloan. Okay, a couple of highlights here. Again, you have seen the traffic study. We did prepare the traffic study early. There has been some talk about making it a requirement, a standard requirement for rezonings. We had ours done for the rezoning, and it was also reviewed for the rezoning. As Mr. Sloan said, Fleece and Vandenbrink concluded, I should say, that there would be minimal impact from this development, as you might expect, and Wade Trim also agreed. But there's a couple of points I wanted to point out, highlight a little bit some of the changes and some of the features that help our traffic study get to that conclusion. So one of the things that you see that's a little bit different, and this was a recommendation of Wade Trim, is that this exit road, Charlevoix Drive, is now a little bit more serpentine to be located a little bit further south. One of the things that does is you can see where I have highlighted the preserved wetlands. It turned purple, so it's in purple, and the preserved woodlands there in pink. So all the areas in purple and pink outside of the road network will be preserved areas. And you can kind of see where that serpentine starts at the north. We've sort of threaded the needle between two existing wetlands to try to minimize that impact. You can see there's a little bit of an impact at the very northwest corner of that snippet, and a little bit of impact just where the road widens out, where Charlevoix widens out before you get to Beck Road. So we were able to reduce the impact that the road had on the natural features of the site by following that recommendation. One of the other things you see here is we're sidewalks throughout both sides, but we only have it on one side, and the reason here is because there are no homes there to access this, and so, again, trying to minimize the impact of the improvements in that area. And of course, you see Mott Drain to the south. One of the neat features of this, and this was one of the recommendations from the traffic report, was to widen the Charlevoix Drive out to 3 lanes so that we could have a dedicated turn in and a dedicated left turn lane out and a dedicated right turn lane out. So 3 cars at once going different directions. It will help reduce any kind of backups. And you can see Commissioner Cruz indicated during the rezoning, he wanted to have a good look at what we were proposing along the Beck Road connection. What we have is a 240 tip-to-tail acceleration, deceleration lane where a car can pull off of Beck Road and into a full lane there in that 50-foot section, so that they're able to turn into the site without being in the traffic lane. So that's what we have proposed there. I also want to bring your attention to the south. One of the nice things about one of our very first concept plans had one entrance out on Cherry Hill Road. There was an iteration with 2 entrances out to Cherry Hill Road. And there was a recommendation from planning staff to make the connection over to Beck Road, and that is why the traffic study worked so well, because there aren't so many conflicts. You can see that residents, and I have some arrows here, and there's a green circle around each of our entrances. You can see they have options. If they want to get out to Cherry Hill Road, they can take that exit. If you want to get out to Beck Road, they can take that entrance. But also, I did some little internal arrows in there too. There's enough turns, internal serpentine turns within the development that it probably won't be an invitation for folks to cut through. There's enough twists and turns in there that I'm not sure you'd save any real time if you were gonna get through there. What it really does is it creates opportunities for the residents to avoid the conflicts that you see that I have in red with the dots in school. It looks like they've just done like a new bus turnaround or a new drop-off lane. The asphalt is still a little darker than the parking lot there. And so those are all good traffic flow devices for the school. And we've provided opportunities for our residents to miss those. Also, as Patrick mentioned, Mr. Sloan mentioned, street lights at each entrance, the pedestrian sidewalk on one side on Charlevoix only, and then the Serpentine route to minimize the impact. Next slide, please. So you did see, again, this is a process. You've already seen us for rezoning, and you did see this concept site plan. So this is the second time you've seen this. This is for preliminary site plan, and then we will have to go through detailed engineering, outside agency permits, and then we're back here again for final site plan once we've acquired all the outside agency permits. These are some of the studies that we have done already. The traffic impact study, we've done a preliminary grading plan at the request of your engineering group. Normally, the grading plan is deferred till later in the process, but we completed a preliminary grading plan. We've done a stormwater analysis. Of course, title work in Alta to make sure everything closes. It is an assembly. We've completed the rezoning, we've selected the product, we've done our soil investigation, and we have preliminary landscape and wetland delineation, which that process we normally apply to Eagle after the preliminary is done, usually right after the first submission of the final engineering, because you really don't want to go to Eagle twice. It takes so much time to go through it. You want to make sure you're kind of locked down. As Mr. Sloan pointed out, we have changed a couple of things. We lost a couple units, we gained a little bit of open space, and we want to make sure that those are always locked down before we apply to Eagle. Next slide, please. So this is the site plan. Again, we are up a little bit in open space from the concept plan that you saw previously. We're up about 5%. There's 18.3 acres, sidewalks on both sides of the street. We've got frontage walks along both Cherry Hill and along Beck Road, 2 access points, condominium services, and rather than lots, we have a true detached condominium here, so the dimensional bulk lot requirements aren't bulk lot requirements, they're separations of buildings, between buildings, and we've got those per your requirements. You can see that, well, let's go to the next slide. It's even better on the next slide. So what I did here was I snipped a couple of the features of the site. You know, the first slide you saw, most of it was a farm. With ITC corridor, but there were a couple of neat areas of the site, and we tried to preserve those so that they become amenities of the site. So you can see the picture, one of our folks took a picture of the existing barn and pond on the site in the upper middle, and then you can also see from the aerial where we tried to place the units around the pond, and that was one of the areas that Mr. Sloan noted that there was sidewalks on only one side, to try to minimize the impact to that natural feature so that it can be enjoyed by all the residents that live around it. Next one down, you see the serpentine wooded entry going out to Beck Road. The picture that you see there, of course, is not that because it's not built yet, but it's a very similar road over in Novi that was cut through a wooded wetland area that I knew about, and I went and took a picture from there because that's kind of what you can expect. It's a great entryway to the development, and is real amenity if you're out, you know, walking or jogging or whatever, something to enjoy there. And this is one item that we talked about in our first meeting when we were looking at the concept plan. On the very bottom, you see the orientation of the homes. So the rear is to the Mott Drain, the fronts are facing the ITC. And so when you have guests over, when you're taking pictures of your home to put on Realtor, if you're selling your home, you don't have the ITC in the picture of the front of your house. And when you are enjoying backyards, most people enjoy the backyard living, it's along a wooded drain, it's along a wooded creek. So it really was a nice land plan there. And also, those homes also don't necessarily have anybody in their backyard on the other side of the street where there are no homes there by the layout. They're great life-tested homes. That's a Pulte trademark, is their life-tested homes. You've seen many of them here in Canton. Pulte's done many developments. This one's unusual because it includes, because it's a detached condominium, it's a true condominium, it includes lawn maintenance and snow removal. And that's unusual for a family home to include lawn maintenance and snow removal. And so the concept here is that more and more millennials aren't the same as us Gen Zers or our folks in the generation before. They don't want to spend so much time doing lawn maintenance and shoveling the snow. They want to have more time to enjoy their families and have experiences with their friends and to do many other things. And so this is an opportunity on a site that is planned exactly and consistently with the master plan and the zoning for relatively higher density. It's a low density, but it's not 1 to the acre, right? So it's 2 to the acre. So we're able to have, they're able to get more bang for their buck at a location here, and they're not going to need to have lawnmowers and snow blowers and all of those things. And so we're hoping that this does appeal to that market. But also, they're available for empty nesters and other folks that might be interested in that as well. Next slide, please. I believe that is the end. I do also have a couple. Oh. Thank you, Commissioner Cruz. Yes, okay. So yeah, those are just some additional slides, Patrick, that aren't part of the show. But in case there were some questions about the drainage, I do have more slides to go through if you wish.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Knowles.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. I'm going to start with Commissioner Watkins.
Super quick. So if you would, Mr. Knowles, what's the status of the acquisition of the parcels right now?
So all 3 parcels are under contract, none are closed. So all 3 parcels have a government approvals period till the end. And once we have all full permits and full approvals, that's when Pulte closes on the property.
For sure. So I guess the only other thing that I add is, listen, I live at the corner of Beck and Cherry Hill, so I do know Dodson School is, it's a fixture, and there's some peak times. I have small kids, and if you head in either direction, either north or south or east or west, you're going to find that in the morning peak hours and the afternoon peak hours, they do line up on that, I'll call it on the southbound side to get into I'll call it the turn-in to Dodson, just before you get to that north entrance of the proposed sub. So it's something to think about, just from, again, guys, I'll just talk about my turkeys again, we don't want to make these great turkeys and have them all buttered up, and they put them in the pan and they don't fit into the oven. And we're getting a lot of that. But again, I don't think it's something that'll hold up this development. I think it's much needed. In this case, I want there to be some semblance of structure around building around Dodson Elementary School. That corridor between Dodson and Workman, which sits at Cherry Hill and Denton, is very busy in the morning, and it is only pretty much a 2-lane highway. There are no XL, decel lanes. I think there's one sub that's to the north between that stretch, the westerly stretch. But again, I've seen more accidents at the corner of Cherry Hill and Beck than I'd like to see over the last 5 or 6 years or so. It's been 10 or 15 years. If you extrapolate and say 101 crashes at Fort and Haggerty, I think the data suggests 24, 25 at the corner of Cherry Hill and Beck, given the amount of traffic that's there. So nothing that would hold this up, but it's something that we definitely have to mention. I got to figure out from our council when we can have a closed session and just talk about some of these items. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Singh?
No questions. Very informative presentation. I learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, if there is more, I'm willing to still go.
Okay.
Seriously, it was good.
You still have two
I'll
more
meet you
items
in the
on the
hallway
agenda.
after.
That's good work. Thank you.
All right, very good. And Commissioner Lee?
I have no questions. Yeah, you're very smooth, as I mentioned. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Very smooth. Okay. Commissioner Foster?
I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cruz? Has some questions.
So you said you are putting the 50-foot decel on back, right?
Right, the right turn in.
Okay, it's just not shown? Or it is shown?
It is shown.
It's not apparent?
It is shown. It's, if you back up a couple slides, it should be, because the 264 feet should include a 75-foot taper, a 50-foot right turn lane, a 40-foot 3-lane entrance, and then a 75-foot taper on the other side. If you add that up, it should be 262, and that's what.
So it's a 75-foot triangle with the 50-foot,
Yes.
okay. And that's what Wade Trim recommended,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Yep.
Nothing on Cherry Hill,
Nothing on Cherry Hill.
just the tapers?
Yeah.
Did Wade Trim comment anything on that, Patrick? I don't think they did. I was just wondering.
I think the comments were mostly geared towards the Beck Road one.
Yeah. So on Beck Road with the school, does that speed limit change?
It does.
Goes to 25 during
Absolutely.
school?
It does.
So that's something to keep in mind. That's why there's a lot of traffic. It's for the safety of the kids. Do kids walk to the school?
Absolutely, if I can add through the chair. So there is a crossing guard at both Beck and at Cherry Hill because the kids, including my kids, have both biked and walked to school. Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's just something to keep in mind for your residents, safety for the kids.
For sure.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Janowski?
No comment, no questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pleased with this. I was curious on your slides, though, can you go back to that slide you just had up? It took me a minute to figure out that SWM is not swimming pool or single white male. I just,
What does it stand for?
Stormwater management.
stormwater management, yeah, that's what
I
I,
know that.
I-
I don't know that.
it took me a minute.
I just
Okay.
figured if you wanted to know more, I left out stormwater management, and there's a whole bunch more information that we could talk
I
about. but
appreciate that
that's
you
what
left
it
that
is.
out, that's okay. You've got it handled,
Very wonky, but it's ready if you want to hear it.
appreciate it. All right, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll do it, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you.
I move to recommend approval of the Everton Reserve Preliminary Site Planning Application number 068-SPP 8457, which consists of 62 detached single-family residences on parcels numbered 068 TAC 99 TAC 0007 TAC 001, 068 TAC 99 TAC 0007 TAC 002, and 068-99-0011-704, subject to all state, county, and township requirements and subject to the following conditions being fulfilled prior to Township Board review of the preliminary site plan. Number one, adding 2 light fixtures at the Beck Road entrance pursuant to section 2.13 of the zoning ordinance. And number 2, obtaining necessary variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals for encroachments into the 25-foot wetland setback areas. And it sounds like there may have been a number 3, but Patrick, it might have been omitted. I don't see it here.
There's no number 3.
Got
Yeah,
it.
That should
All
have
right.
been just a period.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This should have been left you hanging there, is the reason they put that there.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Singh. Any further discussion?
Last point of order, Madam Chair. The Eagle permit for the through cut, that's a done deal at this point? Or tell me where we are in that status.
Yeah, so we will apply for that right after our first submission of final engineering.
Haven't said much, okay.
Yeah, so, and then it'll usually take between 3 and 6 months to get that. So it's about the same time that we're going through Wayne County and through the township engineering reviews.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Janowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber?
Yes. Motion carries. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. We'll
All
see you
right.
again.
Thank you. All right. May I steal that for a second?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry.
We're sharing.
I guess we are. We have the next item on our agenda, item number 4 is 057-ZCC-8539. This is the Elmhurst Street non-conforming contiguous lots, where we are considering approval to use, occupy, or sell 2 or more non-conforming contiguous lots as separate individual lots pursuant to section C.05C, section 3.05C of the zoning ordinance for several parcels at 2202 Elmhurst Ave and 2049 Elmhurst Ave. Patrick, please tell us more.
Sure, thank you. A few months ago, the zoning ordinance was amended to allow for 2 or more lots in single ownership to be used separately. For several years, the zoning ordinance has had a provision that prohibits 2 or more contiguous lots in single ownership to be sold or used separately if they didn't meet the minimum lot width requirement or the lot area requirement. And in this particular zoning district, it's the R5 zoning district, and I think the minimum lot size is 8,400 square feet, which is very rare in a lot of our older plats. On Elmhurst, south of Ford, the McIntyre Manors subdivision plat. This is a really old plat from 1926 that predates even our zoning ordinance. So when there's an existing condition like the creation of a lot, and then subsequently there's a zoning ordinance that now imposes minimum width and area requirements, it makes the current lots legal non-conforming lots, which means they can be used, they just can't be reduced in area. But a lot of zoning ordinances also have the provision that if there are 2 or more lots in single ownership and they're non-conforming because of width or area, that the lots can't be used or sold separately. So what we did in the last few months was to consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would allow certain waivers to be granted for these non-conforming lots. And we had used some language from the Land Division Act and looking at some of the intent there in order to come up with modification language for the ordinance. And the language that we came up with, and it was consistent with the language that was in the Land Division Act, and that's applicable to this application, is that the Planning Commission may approve a waiver from the requirements for 2 or more non-conforming contiguous residential platted lots under the same ownership if it finds that all 3 of the following criteria are met. First, connection to a public water and public sewer system is available, is accessible, and will serve the lots. Second, each lot has frontage on an approved road. And third, each lot is of sufficient area and width for a private or for a principal building to comply with all setback requirements of the zoning district. And these 3 standards apply only to platted residential lots that have public and water. So it wouldn't apply to a lot of meets and bounds lots or any non-platted lots where this doesn't really apply. This really applies to our older plats, like in the McIntyre Manor subdivision. So what's proposed is there's a collection of 2 groups of lots. On the west side of Elmhurst, there are 3 parcels. And if you see closely enough, there's a house that spans across all 3 parcels. I don't know why, back when the house was built, why all 3 lots weren't combined, but they weren't, and the house was allowed to span across 3 lots. Similarly, on the east side of Elmhurst, there's a house that spans across 2 lots. Both groups of lots are owned by the same owner, and previously under the zoning ordinance, these 2 areas outlined in yellow would have to be used only for one single-family residence. When we looked at the recent amendment to the zoning ordinance, we were looking at trying to do infill development, trying to encourage the development of housing that was a little bit more affordable than what's being built in a lot of our newer developments. And recently, with some developed lots and some of the older plats, we've seen some success there in terms of getting more moderately priced housing within the community. And it's along existing streets, tapping into existing water and sewer, and lots that can meet the minimum setback requirements. So the last thing that I'll note about the proposal, and that's included in the packet, is on some of the lots, there is a design from a civil engineer of how the lots would fit. These plans, they show, for example, the minimum 25-foot setback, the minimum side yard setbacks, and the minimum rear yard setbacks. So these lots, they show the building envelope, and they do show how a conforming house can be built on each one of those individual lots. The civil engineer who prepared that has done several plot plans in the community, probably thousands of them. So he has experience with designing lots and designing building envelopes that'll fit based on existing utilities and conditions. Therefore, staff's recommendation is to approve the waivers pursuant to section 3.05C1 of the zoning ordinance for 2 planning applications. One application is for those 3 parcels on the west side, and the other application is for the 2 contiguous parcels on the east side. Based on the findings that all 5 parcels have public water and public sanitary sewer, all 5 parcels have frontage on Elmhurst Ave, and all 5 parcels are of sufficient area and width for a principal building to comply with the required setback requirements of the current R5 zoning district. So that concludes our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Very good, thank you. Anybody want to, project sponsor, want to speak on behalf of this? You want to say anything?
Just want to say sorry for still being in my work clothes.
Oh, gosh. You didn't wear a suit? Sorry.
So Patrick said it better than I could say myself. We've been successful building on the street. You can see just across the street where we built 4 homes. It all worked out. And we've even built 3 more to the south there. Again, fitting on the same size lots with a home that fits there. And we're looking to do the same thing here. Just looking for that permission.
What kind of price point do these go for?
So we've been sub 400.
Okay, that's nice.
It is, and I wish we could build more because they sell very quick. But it's been affordable, and there's a huge demand for it. And the beautiful thing is, you get a lot of families that are attracted to this product. So, yeah, it's been very successful, and just looking to kind of continue that.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody on the commission? I'm just going to open it up. I don't think there's any strong controversy here.
Just have one. Is this unique to Elmhurst Street? Is it anywhere else in the township?
Well, we happen to have another one coming up.
Oh, it's right behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah, there-
answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, there are quite a few. And this one, the McIntyre, it's a large sub. And one that we'll review on the next application, McIntyre Gardens subdivision. But there are a lot of older plats that were developed before we had zoning. And they're good plats, and a lot of them some of them have gravel roads, and they're a little bit more rural in nature, but just some of them for those smaller lots, for one reason or another, they either didn't develop, or at the time they were combined or not combined, and larger houses spanning over multiple lots. So we do have this condition in a handful of areas in the older plats, and we may see more applications in the future for the same platted area. So as you see on the map there's Brookline Boulevard to the west, Marlowe Boulevard to the east. It's within the same plat. It's possible we see some applications in the future for either or both of those streets.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure. And there we go. I move to approve waivers pursuant to section 3.05C1 of the zoning ordinance and planning applications number 057-ZCC-8539 and number 057-ZCC-8540 to allow the 5 subject parcels 057-01-0289-000, 057-01-0290-000, 051-01-0291-000, 057-01-0279-000, and 057-01-0280-000 to be used as separate residential lots based on compliance with the following standards of section 3.05C1A through C. A, all 5 parcels will have public water and public sanitary sewer connections. B, all 5 parcels have frontage on Elmhurst Avenue, which is an approved road. And C, all 5 parcels are of sufficient area and width for a principal building to comply with the required front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, and rear yard setbacks of the current R5 zoning district.
We have support.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Watkins, very dramatically read, and support by Commissioner Foster. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Janowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. Good luck. Yeah. All right, and our 5th item on the agenda this evening is item 060 PS 8463, that is Salts Road nonconforming contiguous lots. We are considering approval to use, occupy, or sell 2 or more nonconforming contiguous lots as separate individual lots pursuant to section 3.05C of the zoning ordinance for several parcels, which are also known as 43519 Salts Road. Patrick, tell us more.
Sure, thank you. There's a similar circumstance in the current application. This one is located a little farther south than the previous application. This is in McIntyre Gardens subdivision number 1. And there are 6 parcels on the south side of Salts Road, east of Sheldon, west of Floden Park. And these are 6 contiguous parcels. They're really small. They're smaller than the ones in the previous application. And if you look at the lots to the east, they're also not quite as deep either. And so there's an application for these 6 lots to combine them into 2 groups of 3. So the resulting lot width will be 60 feet on the western parcel and 67 feet on the eastern parcel. And bring it down to the building envelope. So the proposed building envelope is 37 feet wide on the eastern parcel, 45 feet wide on the western parcel. Sufficient area to build a conforming single-family home, though it'll be a little bit smaller with shallower depth and a smaller building envelope, but it is possible. The same civil engineer that had designed the layout in the previous plan designed the layouts on this plan, and he's done probably thousands of lots in the community, so very familiar with our ordinance and creating lots that are buildable. So the same circumstances apply in this application where the proposed 2 lots have access to public water and public sanitary sewer. There might be some sewer main extension that takes place from the east, but that's attainable. The second, the proposed 2 lots have frontage on Salts Road, which is an approved road. And third, the 2 proposed lots are of sufficient area and width for a building to comply with the required setbacks of the R5 zoning district. So that concludes our staff review, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Project sponsor, Mr. Very, do you have anything to add, or your associate? Okay, awesome. Oh, your son, Mr. Very. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Blake with Blake Anthony Homes, which is a company that Danny started with Livonia Builders, and I've taken over in the last few years. So now I'm taking on the ropes in my next step. So I just wanted to introduce myself. And I am a resident of Canton as well.
Excellent.
Any questions on this?
No, it's funny, I drove by recently and wondered, when is someone going to develop those? That, I didn't realize it was 6 little tiny lots. So, I think this looks great. Anybody got anything to question, or any questions or concerns on the board? No. What kind of, I know, is it going to be similar housing to the ones that are next door?
I believe, yeah, they're going to be plans in the low 400s, and they'll probably be in the range of 1,700 to 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Colonials.
Good.
So bringing in families more than likely.
Nice. Nice. We definitely need this type of housing. So, good luck. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve waivers pursuant to section 3.05C1 of the zoning ordinance and planning application number 060-PS-8463 to allow the 3 western parcels 060-01-0586-000, 060-01-0587-000, and 060-01-0588-000 to be combined into one parcel and to allow the 3 eastern parcels 060-01-0589-000, 06-01-0590-000, and 060-01-0591-000 to be combined into one parcel, and for the 2 parcels to be used as separate residential lots based on compliance with the standards of section 3.05C1 A through C. A, the 2 proposed parcels will have public water and public sanitary sewer connections. B, the 2 proposed parcels have frontage on Salts Road, which is an approved road. C, the 2 proposed parcels are of sufficient area and width for a principal building to comply with the required front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, and rear yard setbacks of the current R5 zoning district.
Thank you very much. Do we have a support? All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Singh. Any further discussion? All right. Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Yes, Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Jadowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. Good luck. Yeah, thank you. All right, and our 6th item this evening is zoning ordinance text amendment, outdoor dining. Patrick, tell us all about it.
Sure, thank you. This is somewhat coincidental with the item that we had earlier on the agenda for Country Plaza and the outdoor dining. We adopted some outdoor dining standards in 2021, and they've been mostly really good standards. They've allowed for restaurants for opportunities for outdoor dining, both on a seasonal basis and in some cases for a longer-term basis in terms of adding patios and long-term fixtures to the site. And in reviewing this, we've done a number of applications where outdoor dining has been approved, and we've talked to some restaurant owners that don't quite meet the standards of some of the outdoor dining criteria, where really applying for a variance in their case doesn't really make sense on something that's going to be a seasonal dining basis. So now that the seasonal dining or the outdoor dining standards have been in place for a few years, we've been able to stress test them a little bit, find out what works, learn a little bit from restaurant owners about how it could be improved. And so we have on tonight's agenda a proposal to the existing outdoor dining standards of section 6.02 AA of the zoning ordinance. The first item that is addressed is the minimum setbacks. The minimum outdoor dining standard setbacks have to meet the requirements of the zoning district, and that's for the front, side, and rear yard setbacks. In our commercial districts, most of our commercial districts, the front yard setback is something like 85 feet. And the assumption is that the building is 85 feet from the front of the road or the front lot line, and in between in that 85-foot area, there's your frontage landscaping, maybe some building landscaping, and then a couple rows of parking and a drive aisle. In some cases, that's not always the case. In other cases, instead of a row of parking, there could be an area where there could be an outdoor dining area delineated, whether it was seasonal or someone takes out some of their front parking spaces adjacent to the building and does a long-term outdoor dining area. In cases like that, like in the case of Country Plaza, that building is just up against the 85-foot setback. It might even be a foot or two encroaching. And in that case, the outdoor dining area is in the side. But in that particular case, except for the setback area, there wouldn't really be anything wrong with having that outdoor dining in front of the building and taking out a couple of the parking spaces to do so. It just wouldn't meet that minimum front yard setback. So what we propose in the text of the ordinance is to allow the Planning Commission to permit outdoor dining within a required front yard setback if the reduced front yard setback will meet a specific and desirable site design objective. So that would relieve the front yard setback area, but it would give control to the Planning Commission in looking at the site plan as a whole. And the Planning Commission would probably be a better body than the Zoning Board of Appeals, because the Zoning Board of Appeals is looking for appeals applications, practical difficulties of the ordinance, and the Planning Commission is more experienced with looking at the whole site plan, how the site will function, the land use. So allowing that flexibility allows for the property owners doing the site development to have that conversation with the Planning Commission hand in hand with their overall development application. The other part of the ordinance that we recommend is that currently the outdoor dining areas are required to be separated from roadways, parking areas by a sidewalk or landscape area not less than 5 feet in width. We found in some cases that outdoor dining areas could be adjacent to parking spaces or even drive aisles if there's a barrier there. These are typically low-speed areas, and with the barriers there to function as a separation, it's fairly common to have these areas adjacent to parking or drive aisles without that 5-foot separation, as long as there's a barrier there. And we recommend allowing the Planning Commission to approve a narrower separation than 5 feet if the outdoor dining area is raised, or there's a continuous barrier between the outdoor dining area and the roadway, drive aisle, or parking area. Sometimes with a raised curb, that's better than a 5-foot barrier, because that is actually a vertical barrier. So a curb along with any kind of enclosure provides safety and a little bit more comfort, especially in those low-speed areas. And again, we recommend having that authority with the Planning Commission because, in this case, it says the approving authority, which in many cases would be the Planning Commission, but in some cases may be the board or it may be staff. But we think that having those narrower areas, as long as there's either a raised dining area or there's a barrier, would be sufficient based on the proposed outdoor dining use. The only other areas of the ordinance that we recommend putting in additional text is we have a couple sections that deal with outdoor enclosure and the surrounding barriers. We recommend adding text to allow for openings for permitted ingress and egress. That way, it's not a complete enclosure around it where you have to open up a fence. It's just kind of a natural flow depending on where the doors and the ingress and egress is. That concludes our staff report. Happy to take any questions. We have a model motion to set a public hearing, which would most likely take place in April. And we could have a chance to talk about this in more detail if we want to at our March work session too. But if we set the public hearing tonight, then this would be on the April Planning Commission for action.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody have any questions or comments, or do we want to just go ahead and move to set the public hearing?
Madam Chair, I move to set the public hearing for the proposed amendments to section 6.02AA of the zoning ordinance as provided in the attached ordinance proposal for outdoor dining accessory to a restaurant.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Foster. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Lee, please call the vote.
Commissioner Cruz.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Janowski. Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh.
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. All right, excellent. We have miscellaneous staff reports, commission, and liaison comments. Anything?
Nothing for me to add.
All right. All right, and. do I
Motion to
have a
adjourn, Madam
motion to
Chair.
adjourn? All right.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Lee. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Anybody want to stay? Okay, didn't think so. Thank you very much.